Well, nature can be our teacher. Many of us know this. And, when last winter, or fall, when the leaves started falling from the trees, and it was days of, less light. And, the changes in the landscape and what would certainly appear to be losses of that which is more robust and more visible and more vibrant in the summer, is not seen by us as anything being wrong, is it? We recognize those changes as being absolutely essential to the seasons of life. In fact, were it not for that particular cycle, we would not be enjoying the robust emergence that we see in the landscape now. And this whole new cycle of life is predicated upon there being a falling away of what was. And if we can learn from nature just that simple lesson, that the seasons of our life and the seasons of our own growth, development, and unfoldment need also to be predicated upon particular seasons in which some things must go away, that which is no longer useful to our soul's growth and unfoldment needs to be shed like the skin of a snake, or in the example in the song, when it's time for you to take the next evolutionary leap in your expression of who you've come here to be, it's absolutely essential that you cooperate with what's trying to take place, with that which is trying to emerge through you, will not just appear as a beautiful butterfly, as much as we would like that to be the process, but there's going to be a struggle, because who you have been all along has become a familiar identity for you. And we don't let go easily of that which is familiar, do we? Hello. And so can you see how there might be tension in our desire to grow and unfold and develop into this butterfly, into this next expression of who we have come here to be, this divine being and expression, when there's a part of us that, yes, absolutely wants that, and that there's a spiritual genome, there's a spiritual DNA that we are encoded for that very growth and development to take place, and yet we're identified with this other creature, this creature that has become identified with something less than that has become so familiar to us that we hold our identity to that, we cling to that so much that which would want to unfold and develop and blossom into the fullness of who we have come here to be encounters this resistance. And so I offer you this idea because if we can hold this in the right context, if we can hold our change in the right context, then we don't see it as against us. Would that be important? That we see that, thank you, there's a woman in the front row here. She's alive. Yeah, I pay her, lots of money to sit up front. This is Denise, many of you know this, who's back for a few days, and so I'm very excited. And she's turned into a beautiful butterfly in the 3 weeks that she's been gone in the spring. So grateful for that. So this notion that life is trying to express in you in a greater and a greater way is part of an evolutionary drive that is on your side. And we get that part, but do we understand that in the process of that unfoldment, that there is going to be something that's probably going to be uncomfortable for us, especially if, as I said, if we are identified with someone that needs to go in order for us to grow. What must go for you to grow is the question of the day. And that can take all kinds of forms. But see, the beautiful thing about spiritual growth and development is that forms don't matter. Because no matter what the forms of your life are, and of course we many of us have lived a few years, we've experienced losses of all kinds of forms, of jobs and relationships and finances and everything else. But those are all forms, and what's trying to express through you is formless. And so it really is not a respecter of forms. It doesn't really care too much about the forms that you have to give up on your way to becoming more aware of your formless nature. Am I yelling at you? I'm excited about this. I'm really excited. Because this is what I've seen happen in my own life, in the lives of so many other people who have gone through this process. And the people that go through it with this perspective that life is trying to do something magnificent through me, that there's something really wonderful that's wanting to take place here. How can I be in the way of, how can I be the way of God instead of in the way of God? You see what I'm saying? How can I be for transformation as opposed to the obstacle to transformation? And when we can become, a co-conspirator in this evolutionary plan that wants to create, who and what you've come here to be an expression, if we can be a cooperative energy, then what happens is we begin to see life all making sense. Even when something really hard has to be dealt with, even when something difficult has to be let go of, we can see it because it's on the way. It is the next step in this journey. And it's particularly true if we're really attached to something. Hello? If you're attached to something. If you're not attached to something, of course, it's pretty much painless anyway, right? But if we're really attached to something, if we're attached to, a person or a place or a thing or a position or whatever it is, that is in the way. Can you see how that might be in the way of your formless nature, your spiritual nature? Because form can be a limitation on how we see ourselves. Now, it doesn't mean you have to become broke and homeless in order to become spiritually enlightened. But it does mean that which you are clinging to that is keeping you in a limited sense of who you are. In other words, a limited belief that you might have about yourself. And don't we know we have some of those still left over? Some of them we haven't quite jettisoned in this process of waking up. And those become, they become grist for the mill of your own awakening. They become prime candidates to be pulled out from under you. If, in fact, your intention is to be free. Now, if you don't want to be free, you can hold on to everything. And you can go through life like that furry, fat worm described in the song. Oh, no. I'm not pointing at anybody. No. Don't ever do that. Ministers should keep their hands to themselves during certain metaphorical references. Thanks for the comic relief. Those people were getting too serious anyway, I think, about this. They didn't realize what freedom could really be. Thank you. So this notion that if a caterpillar, which is, we would say, would be the embodiment of that which would never fly, right? I mean, how could that ever fly? Because it's not designed for that. And you could maybe in the same way say, how could I possibly be free? How could I possibly be spiritually free? How could I possibly have no attachments? How could I possibly feel like, I could love without condition, or that I could experience peace no matter what's going on? We might have the same sort of context that a caterpillar would have in reference to seeing a butterfly going in the sky. But see, the thing is just like the caterpillar is encoded with the genome for a butterfly, so are you encoded as a spiritual being. In fact, it is your very nature. It is your very nature to be free. It's your very nature to fly. It's your very nature to be free of all attachments and to experience that kind of love and that kind of peace and that kind of joy. So it isn't like you have to become something other than who you are in order to experience this freedom. You need to just remove the blocks from the awareness of who you are. And that's what spiritual growth is about. And that can be uncomfortable, yes? I got to read this thing about caterpillars and butterflies. I may have shared this with you before, but it's so cool. I didn't know this. I mean, I knew it the first time. I didn't know it the first time I read it, but I reread it this morning. I said, this is so cool. I got to read it to you again. And of course, you'll see the metaphor, but I'll indulge you with some more explanation. So it goes like this. This is how this happens. So a caterpillar crunches its way through its ecosystem, cutting a swath of destruction by eating as much as 100 times its weight in a day. It sounds like some of those potlucks, we've had here. Thanksgiving, that's a better example. Until it's too bloated to continue, and it hangs itself up. That's kind of like, that's the couch on Thanksgiving Day, And so, but it hangs itself up on a branch, and its skin then hardens into this chrysalis. We all know about the chrysalis, right? So inside the chrysalis, deep inside the caterpillar's body, these tiny things that biologists call imaginal discs, begin to form. Well, here's the thing. The caterpillar has an immune system, right? And it doesn't recognize these things, and so it attacks them and tries to snuff them out. But they keep coming faster and faster and linking up with each other. And eventually the caterpillar's immune system fails from the stress of trying to fight these imaginal cells that are multiplying. And these imaginal cells then build the butterfly by feeding on the meltdown of the caterpillar's body. Gross. But oh so efficient. You hear this? Nothing is wasted. And it all fits. So it took a long time for biologists to understand the reason that the immune system would be attacking the incipient butterfly cells, but eventually they discovered that the butterfly has its own unique genome, carried by the caterpillar, inherited from long ago in evolution. It's the caterpillar's job to resist the butterfly, and the butterfly's job to become stronger because of the opposition. You hear this? There's a part of you whose job it is to have you cling and stay the way you are, because it's a separate sense of self that has been a big part of how you have survived, particularly in your younger life. And you made up a story about who you are. And that story of who you are became hardened like a chrysalis that was a container, and it became a very fixed form. And it takes the form of beliefs, and it takes the form of self-image, and it takes the form of what's possible and what's not. And its job in your life is to have you survive. And so it's going to resist this part of you that's wanting to break out, that's wanting to reveal itself, that's wanting to express itself, that's wanting to take hold of your consciousness, to take hold of your awareness, and reveal to you who you are and who you came here to be. Because you are encoded, you have a genome as a spiritual being, which is free, which knows love, which knows peace, which knows joy. And it cares nothing about form. It will have the ability to experience those qualities in any form. And what it realizes is that the only way for you, this apparent separate you that you are, to know that is for you to be without those forms that you think need to be in place in order for you to be okay. And how many of you had gone through an experience in your life where you were really attached to a particular form that you identified with, without which you thought you would not be able to go on? Has anyone ever had that experience? And how many of you are still here? Isn't that amazing? Isn't that that's the easiest way to explain the possibility of transformation? is that you and I have all held very strong beliefs about life having to be a certain way for us to be okay, and some of those things were trashed. Some of those things got jettisoned in our journey through life by hook or crook or by divine order, or whatever reason it happened. Can you see how it might have been for your greater good if now you're on the other side of what you thought you could not lose and be okay, and now you realize that you've lost something and you're still okay? Do you not have a more expanded version and understanding of yourself? That you must be something more than the form. You must be something more than the job. You must be something more than the relationship. You must be more than a certain amount of money. You must be more than all of your body parts being on your body. Because we've lost body parts, we've lost money, we've lost relationships, we've lost jobs, we've lost identities that are rooted in form. And somehow, who is this that remains? Who is that? And that's the butterfly. That's the one that can take flight, that is not stuck to the ground of life being a certain way. It's that which can spread its wings and be in the realm of the visible, of the formed, but not be tied down to it and not be limited by it. And that's who we've come here to be, and that's what's so exciting. That's why we do this work. That's the hero's journey for all of us. And I wanted to share that with you today. And I've got a couple of really eloquent ways of saying this from two sources. Barbara Marx Hubbard, who is all about transformation, yes. She says, this is from her book, Emergence, The Shift from Ego to Essence. She says this: from the context of billions of years of evolutionary transformation, we see recurring patterns. For example, we learn that crises precede transformation. Isn't that good news? Problems are evolutionary drivers. Are you hearing this? What if you saw all of your problems as evolutionary drivers? Like, I can't wait to see what this problem, I am going to evolve. This problem is my ticket home to higher consciousness. What if it's true? And of course it's true. There's nothing willy-nilly going on. It's all here by divine order. Particularly if we cooperate with it and allow it to be such for us, then we will see it. So nature has been taking jumps through greater synergy, making new whole systems out of separate parts. And as systems become more complex, they rise in consciousness and freedom. When a system reaches a chaos point, it is launched irreversibly on a new trajectory that leads either to breakdown or to break through to a new structure and a new mode of operation. From this perspective, we can view the terrible crises that could destroy human civilization and much of Earth life as potentially generating the dangerous, painful, yet necessary birth of ourselves as a more mature, loving, co-creative species. Many people are concerned about the forces on the earth and the consciousness of the people and what's going to happen to us as a species. And if we get into the oh my God mentality, then we will be in the way of any potential good that could come from these changes that are wanting to take place. Because if we see them as evolutionary drivers, then we can see them not against us, but what? For us. We can see them as that which is coming along on the way for us to wake up, to become these mature, loving, co-creative beings that we were created to be. And Eckhart Tolle is the last one I want to read to you. He says, when faced with a radical crisis, when the old way of being in the world, of interacting with each other and with the realm of nature doesn't work anymore, when survival is threatened by seemingly insurmountable problems, an individual life form or a species will either die or become extinct or rise above the limitations of its condition through an evolutionary leap. Do you see, we all have a choice. We're not destined to follow the the trajectory that so many people would like to profess, which is that, we're going down, down, burning a ball of fire or something, that there's this sort of descending sort of sense. But what if what's happening here really is a huge wake-up call for us? This is how, as Unity Truth students, we can see this. We can see this as an opportunity for us to see these difficulties and these challenges, to wake us up to who we are, because don't we remember that forms are not what matters here. What matters is consciousness. What matters is how we see and how we feel and how we embrace life as it's appearing to us. And if these changes that are coming down the pike of life, whether they're within our individual lives or in our collective experience as a species or as a part of a community or part of a country, and we can see them as all really conspiring to be the imaginal cells that are trying to bring forth this new human species, the enlightenment of which would become the answer to the reversal of everything that would seem to be a limitation on us on this planet, and could actually be us going to the next level of understanding. So seen in that context, it's not just being Pollyannish, it's about us finding parallels with how nature unfolds, how we recognize that this must go. And sometimes we have to see things, and these structures that have been, we have identified with and we've held to be so strong and so much, whether as a nation or as a community or as just a human species, we see some of these structures and they're up. They're up to be tested, and how are they doing under the stress? And maybe some of these structures need to fall. Maybe some of these things which we have held to be, what we need in order to be okay, need to fall, so that we can find something much more holistic that really is the formless structure that binds us together, that holds us in a sense of our wholeness and our sense of spiritual oneness. Because if we're all in our little, forms called houses or called jobs or called religions or called cultures or called race or called whatever it is, and we're in these little places, we are giving evidence that separation is the way. And when some of those things, some of those boundaries get to be blurry, some of those walls begin to come down, for whatever reason, we get to see each other. We get to be with each other in a way that we cannot be when we're stuck in our old way of seeing ourselves. So this is an opportunity for us, and I am not insensitive to the forces that are, milling about us, that are happening in our individual lives and in our world. But I really believe that there is something at play here, and that we need to cooperate with this so that we can bring forth this new earth. And it doesn't begin out here in form. It begins within us. As above, so below. As in consciousness, then in manifestation. So the work is ours. The work is ours to embrace change and to see change as a part of where Spirit is taking us, so that we can be a part of creating a better humanity, a better experience for us together. Will you join me? Yes. Very good. Thank you.